the discussion so far, we have covered general qualities of Pinter as a writer, as a dramatist, the techniques that he uses, and the techniques that leave a lasting impact on the mind of the audience. Now, I'll carry forward this discussion. Now, I'll be brief about the general features of Pinter's writing, and I'll finally focus upon the play, The Birthday Party. So, Pinter carried the influence of Samuel Beckett, whom Harold Bloom identified as Pinter's ego ideal. It's a difficult thing, and I'm perhaps referring to two or three things which appear to be disconnected with one another, but actually they are very much able to create a focus. So why should Pinter carry the influence of Samuel Beckett? That's the first thing. Samuel Beckett is a writer of the absurd, and he wrote in the late 40s. I refer to that period. Samuel Beckett was in France, but he was born in Ireland. Samuel Beckett also, used the same techniques or of the same kind there. And since he was a writer of the absurd, so he was able to influence young minds. And he was a major writer of the time, and this person was influenced by him. This person was impressed with his way of looking at the world. And Beckett used his language very carefully. For Beckett, sometimes one word would be enough to create an impact that other people can't create with 5 or 6 sentences. He would pack, a word with meaning in the way very few other writers at that time could. And Pinter, looked at Beckett with fascination. And therefore, certain things of Beckett's, personality also entered his own sensibility, entered his own mind. And Harold Bloom is another critic, an American critic, and he has given, this particular, idea about Pinter, that Pinter's ego ideal. Ego ideal is a word that is difficult to explain, but one can say that it is about the selfhood, the selfhood of Pinter had elements of the influence of Samuel Beckett, and this point is established as important for us to consider by Harold Bloom. So Pinter had a clear opinion about the politics of the time. This I mentioned in passing in the earlier discussion, but let me tell you that Pinter all the time was expressing his opinion about the politics of England at the time that he lived. In England, all his life he lived in England. He might have gone to other places sometime or the other, but came back to England. That was his main, focus all the time. And he talked about politics. Politics is a different ball game. The writers, generally avoid politics and they deal with emotions. But there are writers who also think very clearly about the world in which they live. And Pinter was such a writer. So he had opinions about politics, and his politics was the politics of truth, politics of making a statement, politics of defining a particular attitude, politics of harm that is to be opposed by him would also be a kind of politics, and he would oppose the harmful ideas, the harmful opinions, and which means that he knew what was harmful and what was useful. Why am I saying this? I say this because in the 20th century, there have been so many movements, there have been so many upheavals, there have been so much of violence that writers can't close their eyes to what is happening around them. And if you have an opinion, then you will say something, and after all, for a dramatist, what is important is that he should give a kind of a lesson to the audience. He should tell the audience what he feels is right. Audience comes not merely for entertainment. Entertainment is a kind of the bargain, but that entertainment should always be mixed with something sensible. And a sensible thing, if that is being threatened by society at that a section of society at that time, then people like Pinter can't be kept quiet. They will not look the other way when wrong things are happening in England at that time, and therefore he will clearly express his opinion. Maybe that doesn't endear people to him, but he doesn't mind. He doesn't want any kind of endearment from people. He would like to say things that he finds normal and right, and of course they also require courage, because who would like to create enemies? But so far as Pinter is concerned, he is not bothered about creating enemies or friends. He would in fact say that he saw certain things and he found them disturbing, and therefore he must create that sense of disturbance, which was disturbing to him. He should also disturb in return those people who listen to him, those people who see his plays, and where he is also not just a writer but also an actor. So he had those opinions, and he would definitely would be against the right wing in England at that time. He came from a poor background, as I said, and he came from the community of Jews. He didn't believe in any kind of religion. He was an atheist. But he had opinions on different issues, and he would very clearly, with courage and conviction, express those opinions for the benefit of the audience. So politics of the time is something that he engages with, and he expresses it with exemplary courage and conviction. There are very few people in England in the 1950s who would have the kind of courage and the kind of conviction. They have faith in themselves, and they have the courage to express what they feel is right, and Pinter is one such writer in England in the 1950s. Pinter's style consisted of, now I've touched upon this topic earlier, but since I'm finally reaching the point where I'll be talking about the birthday party, so let me tell you something about his style in the specific sense. He uses colloquial language. In drama, generally, you want to write for an audience which is of intellectuals. There are lots of academicians come to watch your plays. They also read your plays, in books, and some of them also might think of acting out those plays in theaters elsewhere in the world. But so far as Pinter is concerned, he is not writing for them. He is not picking up characters also from intellectuals. He's picking up characters from common masses. And common masses, as you know, have gone to the school, have gone to maybe even a college, but then they didn't go to learn language. They went there in search of bread and butter, in search of a job that will ensure them some kind of stability in life. And when they come back, since they are poor, since they are lower middle class, since they are workers and all, so their language would be a functional language. They'll not take pleasure in using good words and words which impress others. They would express things that are in their mind. So colloquial means the spoken language, the ordinary spoken language, which may not be understood by the high sounding academicians, or who might look down upon a word which appears to be vulgar. Vulgar, no, not in the sense in which we use the word, but vulgar in the sense that it is commonplace. So numerous cliches. So cliches, if you know this is a cliche and still you are using it, then in fact you are drawing attention to the cliche, which means that you are not actually using a cliche, but you are making people aware of the presence of a cliche in the minds of people, in the speech of other people. So he is using cliches. And then unpolished grammar. His grammar is not actually perfect grammar. He doesn't talk like a person who has had a degree in linguistics, or who can tell you things which are scholarly in nature. He would not like to appear scholarly, and his grammar would be unpolished in the sense that sometimes it can violate the principles of grammar and still would create sense. In fact, so this is something interesting about the great writers, that they are using unpolished grammar in order to bring me closer to the reality. Because on the street, if somebody speaks, then this person is not aware of the grammar that he is using. He is at that point of time interested in knowing this world from his angle of making money, to become useful to society, to do one thing and to help others, or to harm others. And at that kind of in that kind of a language, if you write, then it's also once again an act of courage. He created dialogues that reflect day-to-day speech, how people talk. How do people talk? If you just go to the street and listen to the people talking, then you will see that they will not use sentences in the way a teacher would use sentences in the classroom. The sentence should start with this, sentence should end there, there should be full stop, there should be commas, and there should be explanations. That is the style of an educated person. But if you use a dialogue in such a manner that whenever you want, you can stop. Whenever you can want, you can change the point. If that happens, then this is the day-to-day speech, and this speech is consciously used by Pinter in his plays. So you can watch him, you can view his plays from this angle that you have to be in touch with the language of the street where people speak in the normal style. The themes Pinter pursued bore reference to ambiguity. Now, this is particularly true of the birthday party, the play that we have to focus on. There is ambiguity, no clarity. You say something and the people wonder as to what you meant. And it can go both ways simultaneously. It can go towards right, it can go towards wrong, and who knows. So that kind of language he is using deliberately. That is not understood without analyzing what is said and what is not said. So you have to analyze it. So far as he is concerned, he'll make an ambiguous statement, and then it's your job, it's my job as a viewer to understand how to separate the sensible from the nonsensical. So this is the kind of language that this person is using also in the themes that he pursues. His plays typically grapple with, and this is very true about the birthday party, implications of threat. So you are not threatening directly. You are not basically warning a person, but then you say things twice or thrice and say the same thing. So somebody straight away say, why did he repeat the words 3 times? What did he mean? Suppose you say, don't be afraid of me. And then you say it again, don't be afraid of me. And you say it the 3rd time. So somebody would say that perhaps the man is threatening. So this is the kind of style that he uses. It's a very fine style. It's a very subtle style. This is how people speak. This is how, people who are on the street and who want to, terrify you, or want to make you feel weak, they use this language. And he then can use this language in order to make people aware about the violence position that is there in society at a particular time. Violence doesn't come with swords in hand, with knives in hand. Violence can also come with suggestions that maybe somebody will lose his or her job. You can say it. If you have to warn somebody that he will lose his or she will lose her job, then you can say it in a manner and finally it will be conveyed. That even if you are sweet, finally you are saying, for instance, if the boss says to an employer, to an employee, well, I think you will be very peaceful at home. Now the threat is that he is firing you. He'll taking away your job. He will say, oh, I think you require some good food at home and don't move out. So this is the implication of threat. So he uses such words, and strong feelings produced through colloquial language. Earlier, in the 19th century, Dickens was the master of colloquial language. And in the 20th century, who knows, maybe this person also has read his Dickens very carefully, and he can use colloquial language in order to present, very intense emotions. Apparent triviality is something, the things are not trivial, but you say them and they appear trivial, appear simple. But then, because there is a pause at the end of the talk or in the middle of the talk, so the whole thing ceases to be trivial. It becomes serious. Now we finally come to the play, The Birthday Party. It's a play. It presents the logic of the theme of the absurd. How does the play begin? There is a person who is living in a boarding house, and there is a couple, and they have rented a room to him, and he is their guest, and they provide to him food, and he has lived there for 1 year or so. So where this person came from, for what purpose, how does he spend his time? These are the questions that one may like to ask, but that answer is not given. And he gets up in the morning, he has his tea, he has his breakfast, he has his lunch, he has his dinner, and then he goes to sleep. What does he do? He doesn't talk anything regarding his activities. So it's a very strange situation in which this main character of the birthday party lives. It has 7 characters, the play, and I was talking about Stanley Weber, the first one, who is the person who is staying in this boarding house, and Meg and Pete Bowles, these are the people, husband and wife, and they maintain the boarding house, and he's the guest there, and the 2 visitors then come. Where from they came? No one knows. When would they leave? Because it's a boarding house, it's there on the list, and people can read the information regarding the availability of a boarding house somewhere in a village, and they have read it in the newspapers, and they came here. They came unannounced. Will they come will they stay here for a day? Will they go the next day, or will they stay for a month? Nobody knows. So this is once again, very, very close to the play by Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot, where people come and they say they'll wait. And here these 2 people have come, just like the 2 people in Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and they are visitors, and they have come for a purpose. What can that purpose be? You are all the time thinking about it. That's in fact the first part of the play, the first act of the play. The play has 3 acts, and the first part, Stanley Weber, he is just having a kind of peaceful life without any incidents, but suddenly one day he hears that 2 more people have come and they'll stay in the same boarding house. Are they after him? Will they interact with him? Will they behave as friends? Will they behave as enemies? No one knows. And this person is disturbed because he is in the habit of living alone in the boarding house, and now there are 2 more people, fellow boarders. The 2 visitors, and their names are once again, Goldberg might be a German, and McCain, he might be an Irishman, because that is what the name suggests. So 2 people from 2 different places, from 2 different nationalities, come to stay, and they came there together. And then there's a girl called Lulu, and there's a person called Monty, and Monty is not shown in the play, and he'll be perhaps, Weber would perhaps go to Monty. So Monty is not there, but Lulu is there. Lulu is a young girl, a beautiful, good-looking young girl, and she'll appear in the end of the second part of the play, but then she's there in the play, as an important presence. So this is what all characters constitute in the play. The themes in the play are, as I said earlier, ambiguity. No one knows. No one is clear. Meaninglessness. There seems to be no purpose of Stanley Weber living in this house. There seems to be no purpose why these 2 people came. Maybe they came to while away time. Maybe they came to threaten Stanley Weber. Maybe they came to loot the boarders, the boarding house managers, owners. Guilt and transgression. You do something, and should you do it? Should you cross boundaries? Should you transgress? That's the meaning. So actually, when you watch this play on the stage, when you read this play as a text, then you realize that the sense of guilt is always there. Why should Stanley Weber, not say anything regarding himself, and still, he seems to be a burden for the couple who are managing his life, as the owners of the boarding house. So there is some sense of guilt somewhere, that the person is not useful, and he is perhaps putting pressure on them, and they are not taking the pressure, that they are enjoying it maybe, or they are taking it as their moral duty. No one knows. But somebody is going to cross the boundary sometime or the other, and that is what creates a sense of guilt in the surroundings. Along with order, chaos and sanity. Chaos is more in the play. Sanity is less in the play. Order means some kind of discipline, that is not there in the play. It is there and not there. Which means that the birthday party is a play which is completely uncertain. It talks about nothing, but then it disturbs us. Why these people have decided to spend their time together for some time, and will they be friends? This is the question that all the time we are asking. Then, think of the other words, isolation. You are in the company of 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, but you do not talk to them. When you talk to them, then that doesn't make any sense to others. They don't understand you. Do you understand them? You ask yourself and you know that yes, you don't understand them, which means you are isolated. You are lonely. In fact, loneliness is a very important theme of the 1950s and 60s because people did not see any friendship, any help, any assistance from others, in the surroundings. So they remained isolated. And once again, the main question of isolation of the Jews living in Europe. They had to finally think of a homeland called Israel, which means that wherever they went, people looked at them with suspicion. So isolation is there in the case of minorities. Minorities do not generally mix up with majorities, and they are all the time feeling uncertain. Freedom, isolation and freedom are connected somehow. That if you are free from worries, if you are free from the tensions, then that's what you want. But will you be free from the tensions? So freedom is there as an important theme of the play. And independence lurk in the background. So in the background you are aware about all these things. But so far as the place is concerned, this boarding house is concerned, then these things are missing. And because they are missing, so you can say that they are there. Because missing means that it is generally thought to be the case. Birthday is an occasion to celebrate, as I said in the beginning. But is it a celebratory play? And to go over the past for considering life in its interaction with an ever-forming present. Present hangs heavy on the play. But there is a past, and there is a reference to the past. There was a time when Stanley Weber played on the piano. He was there in a concert, and suddenly one day he was either thrown out or he left the place, and he came back here. And after that, he has not gone anywhere. So who will celebrate his birthday? What is there to celebrate in him? He's wasting his time, and he has wasted his time all along, and he wants to go back but cannot go back to the career of playing a piano in some kind of a musical concert. And this kind of ever-forming present, things form the present, but that present doesn't appeal to us, therefore the present is useless. The characters in the play cannot hold a meaningful conversation with one another. You see that Stanley just doesn't talk to the woman. He doesn't talk to the man, the husband of the woman, who are maintaining this place. But then he has some kind of a connection with the woman. He likes this woman, even though he doesn't express his feelings. But perhaps he likes the woman. The woman also likes him. So there is a strange kind of bonding between them. The husband is not bothered. The husband, in fact, goes out in the morning, comes back in the evening, and he doesn't have any suspicion, etc. So far as the behavior of his wife is concerned, and his wife also, stays very loyal to her husband. But then there is some kind of a trick that she would like to play on him. She would use words which can mean two things, and the man is not interested, Stanley Weber, and therefore he would say that. This kind of a thematic thing will not hold for some time. The other word that I use is distorting the line between the real world and illusion. I have talked about the real world. The real world was that the man had some kind of a past and he doesn't tell us. And the illusion, this is the illusion that we have. Does the play engage with realism as an issue? That's the question to ponder over. The comic is threatening in the play. It is mixed with violence. One doesn't know what turn the course of events might take. This seems to be the crux of the play. That things are not certain and it do not actually lead in any particular direction. So there is the first situation I told you. The second situation is that the birthday party is arranged and people drink themselves silly. And Goldberg and McCain, they have in fact organized the party with the help of the woman Meg, who maintained the thing, and there some kind of ruckus occurred. Lights went out. Certain things happened in the dark, and people became violent, and they started shouting and crying, and thus some kind of work went on, and nobody know what happened when the birthday party began. In the third situation, Stanley has turned dumb. It's just one day. Things happened in the evening, and the next morning there's a third situation where Stanley has stopped talking. What has happened to him? What happened in the party? Was he threatened? Because these people say that they are taking him away to some doctor, to some place where he will have rest and he will recover his health. But why are they taking him? The people in the boarding house, they say that they'll look after him, they'll call the doctor, but he says, no, we'll take him there. And when they say we'll take him there, Stanley does not say anything. In fact, he has gone dumb. And who knows why? Why should he go dumb like that? So once again, the question is raised about the reality and all this. So I'll finish this argument with in a minute with the kind of dialogue that is used in the play. For instance, Goldberg says, "It goes without saying, between you and me, Stan, it's about time you had a new pair of glasses." So because he's wearing glasses, he's having spectacles, and then his friend says, "You can't see straight." Now Goldberg said, "It's true. You have been cockeyed for years." The friend says, "Now you are even more cockeyed." Goldberg says, "He's right. You have gone from bad to worse," and things like that. So if this way, the dialogue is carried on, then it doesn't mean anything. But then there is a threat, there is a violence, and one says that this play is unparalleled in modern dramatic tradition, where you don't say anything and you have said everything about the situation in the 1950s and even maybe later. Even today you will have people who feel threatened just like that. There is a psychological problem with them. They don't know where to look for any kind of hope or assistance. So I think this playwright is able to capture the very essence of stasis, of the lack of movement in life. And that's how I interpret this play. That's how I interpret the dramatic practice of this writer, that he's raising questions and he sees people helpless in the web of the circumstance which is there around them. Thank you.